let's say you currently own a house right now, but you want to go buy another house and then keep your current property as a rental. So how exactly do you do that? Now, this one's a little bit of a story time because I actually ran into the situation either a year or maybe 2 years ago. It was a couple that lived in Temecula, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to move back to San Diego and rent out their Temecula property and buy a house here in San Diego. Now, I told them, I was like, hey, look, you're gonna wanna buy first before doing anything because we know that Temecula is high in demand when it comes to rentals, or at least it was back then. And we hit it off really good, but at the end of the day, they were a little hesitant, and it seemed like they were kind of interviewing a bunch of different agents. Now, regardless, I sent them properties I think were, fitting of their needs and everything, and touching base with them and seeing how everything was going. And so a couple months passed by, and I actually invited them to one of my open houses over there in Lakeside because they were looking in the El Cajon Lakeside area, and they actually came. And so I was, catching up with them, like, how's everything going, guys? And they were like, oh my goodness, we're living at our in-laws house right now. It's just us in one bedroom, this and this and that. And I was like, whoa. I was like, what the heck happened? And they proceeded to tell me, they were like, oh, we saw this property in Escondido and we absolutely fell in love with it. And we reached out to an agent and, we wanted to submit an offer. And so we submitted an offer and we thought we were going to get it. So we were super excited. We started packing. And immediately in the back of my head, I'm like, oh no, I already know what's going to happen here. And they were like, our agent, they hyped it up. We thought we were going to be getting it. So we actually put our property in Temecula for rent. It rented out way quicker than we planned. It rented out in like 2 days. So they actually signed a lease agreement and they were planning on moving out and they were preparing for that. And they explained to me that they actually did not get the property. So now the biggest downside here is you have a signed lease agreement, but you don't have the replacement house. And so ultimately they decided to move into their in-laws and to continue their search here in San Diego. Now, there was a thought in the back of my mind, but I was just kind of waiting until, they finished explaining their story and, everything that's gone on and just kind of catching up. And I asked them, I was like, hey guys, did your agent explain to you that when you buy a house, there's usually like 2 months of prepaid, you don't make your first payment for the first like month and a half, 2 months. From the second that you close, it's usually, like a month and a half, 2 months, depending on what day on the calendar or what day of the month it is. But you don't really have to worry about, the mortgage payment, once you close on your property for, let's just say, a month or 2 months. So I explained to them, I was like, hey, look, you could have bought your house first, not have to really worry about a mortgage payment on it for, let's just say a month or 2 months, and then put your Temecula property up for rent, and then find a tenant there and be moved in, sign the lease, have them move in, so on and so forth, and that way it's not this complete nightmare that you just explained to me. And they looked at me and they're like, right, you can do that. And I was like, your agent didn't explain to you that you guys could do that? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, I could have explained that to you in about 5 seconds here. So anyways, that was just a difficult thing. I don't know what ended up happening, if they bought a house or not. Both me and Kyle, we reached out several times and so on and so forth. But I mean, you can't win them all. But I bring up that story here because that's a very clear and obvious thing a lot of agents and people in the industry know, is that when you buy a house, using FHA or conventional or VA loan, purchase the property, you don't generally have to make a payment for a month or 2 months. And that's the thing that frustrates me the most, is that the client's goals and objectives, they absolutely matter. And there's ways to accomplish it. Does it get complicated? Absolutely. But that's, I think, the part that I enjoy the most. So in the instance that you are looking to rent out your current property and go buy a replacement one, your number one goal should be finding that replacement property first and going into escrow, and then dealing with everything else later on down the line, because then you have more of a window to take care of more things. So if you are considering that, or there are other options out there, and you have questions about renting out your property and buying a replacement one, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a DM. I know exactly how to prevent the headaches of, or at least try my best to prevent the headaches of having to move into in-laws or whatever the situation may be, and putting you in a sticky situation. So if any questions, reach out to me.